Hello, I'm Colin Brown. I'd like to welcome Mr. Barry Shapiro, Democratic candidate for House 18. Welcome.
Thank you, Colin.
First question that we're going to ask you today. Could you tell us at least 3 of your positions that might encourage a person who is elderly or a person with disabilities to think of you as a candidate and vote for you?
Sure. The first would be to promote financial assistance for families caring for an aging parent, the proposed Americans Giving Care to Elders, or AGE Act, and credit for Social Security benefits for people who leave the workforce to care for aging family members, the proposed Social Security Caregiver Act. Medicare coverage for hearing aids. This seems like an odd and out of the blue, but a lot of seniors have hearing problems. Hearing aids are very expensive, and they're not covered. I also want to ensure effective programming that would be available and accessible to everyone and anyone with disabilities. For something like stuttering, for example, I was a severe stutterer until the time I was 23, when I went through a behavior modification-based program in Virginia. It was a 3-week intensive program. When I arrived, they diagnosed me as 66% disfluent, which meant 2/3 of the time you couldn't understand what I was trying to say. The day I left, they diagnosed me as 99% fluent. This is a program that has proven itself year after year as incredibly effective. They run an average success rate of about 93%, and they need private funding to continue. There are over 3 million stutterers in the country. They all need access to effective and accessible health care and therapy.
Thank you very much. Our second question. There is Oregon Project Independence, a program that's kept seniors and people with disabilities in the safety and their familiarity of their own home. And yet every year proposed funding for OPI is significantly cut. What can you do to ensure and protect funding for this cost-effective program?
Not being a politician, it is very difficult for me to understand why our government chooses to defund programs that need funding the most, particularly programs that can provide needed benefits while saving taxpayer dollars. The mission of OPI is to provide preventative in-home services, reducing in-hospital and other costly facility expenses. OPI was meant to provide such important services as helping seniors and the disabled with dressing, bathing, going to the bathroom, and making meals, as well as shopping and transportation. Considered a needs-based program, OPI simply cannot fulfill its intended mission with half the funding, or less. 20 hours a month for seniors and nothing for those with disabilities is totally inadequate. DHS needs to properly fund OPI and other programs that benefit seniors and the disabled. It is their responsibility and the state's obligation.
Thank you very much. Question 3. What will you do on a state level so that seniors and people with disabilities no longer face a lack of accessible and affordable housing?
The challenge of making affordable housing in the state is not limited to our seniors and people with disabilities, nor is it limited to Portland. By putting off a comprehensive plan, we are only making the situation harder to solve. People are living longer. The senior population is increasing. By 2035, 1 in 3 households will be headed by someone who is older than 65. The 80-plus population will double. The national average for private assisted living is approximately $4,000 a month, out of reach for most seniors who barely make enough for basic expenses. Most experts agree public housing is not the answer. We need to ensure existing programs are working. HUD's limit for individuals in Marion County qualifying as extremely low income is only $14,700 annually. Coverage drops to 50% at $24,450. HUD's 202 housing program needs to be protected and expanded to provide housing for every older adult that needs it. We also need to get creative with ideas like mini retirement villages, cottage communities, and shared living.
Thank you very much. Question 4. How would you prioritize state funding, including funding that is matched with federal funds, for services to an increasing senior and people with disabilities population? How can you do that?
As I mentioned, Colin, I would like to see HUD's 202 program supplemented by state funding. We have to put funding where it will do the most good, shoring up state funding to help families who have taken on the added responsibilities and expenses of caring for an aging or disabled family member. Our state family caregiver program should be one of our top priorities. Telling our old and disabled citizens that we don't have it in the budget is simply unacceptable. If elected, I can represent the Democratic supermajority in the House, which would allow us to close costly loopholes. We need to make sure everyone pays their fair share, and I'm saying the mega corporations and the 1% especially.
Thank you. Our last question, and this really relates to your background, your experience. How will your experience as an artist and as a businessman and a teacher shape the work that you will do on behalf of people and seniors and people with disabilities?
As I mentioned earlier, I have a personal and direct experience with a disability as a severe stutterer. I understand the humiliation and the frustrations only someone with a handicap experiences. After graduating one of the best art schools in the country, I was told how good my portfolio was, but that I would never get anywhere with that stutter. My personal experience compels me to ensure those deemed disabled are given every opportunity to improve the quality of their lives. Healthcare and assistance when needed, and access to effective treatment when appropriate. As for seniors, I have been teaching art for the last 10 years. Just as I understand that our children represent the future, our seniors are the fastest growing segment of the population. It is expected that the percentage of people 65 and older will be more than children for the first time in history. During the course of my campaign, I have encountered many seniors. They take an active role in politics and social issues by demonstrating and volunteering their time to issues and causes they care about. Seniors have a wealth of experience and knowledge that have given many organizations their substance. I know personally, I am who I am because of my grandmother. Well, both of my mother's parents. My grandmother encouraged me and passed on her love of reading and literature. My grandfather passed on his love-hate relationship with the Boston Red Sox, and I have been a fan ever since.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shapiro. We much appreciate you being here and sharing your views. And thank you to our viewers. Mr. Shapiro is running for House District 18, the old seat that was populated by Vic Gillum, I understand.
That's
You had
correct.
to retire to illness. So thank you so much again for coming, and we thank you, our audience, for listening to us today.
Thank you, Colin, and thank you.